the explanation that we gave it last night is that our top connection from the Lego is our connection to God, where He is given our love. Um, and the bottom is our connection to man, our neighbors, where through God we're able to share that love. So that's a little gist of last night.
Cool.
Nice.
Which I think is a great concept. So our first question of the night, what does it mean to be connected? Just in general. Like, what does it mean to be connected?
In our perspective of our Lego, okay, well, see, here's the thing. A lot of people tell us that our connection to God will always pertain what your personal connection to Him is.
Mm-hmm.
So connection is entirely how you accept the love of God.
Okay.
Wow.
Yes.
Okay. Wow.
I think that was a little more simple.
My answer wasn't as deep.
I
I was just gonna say having similar something in common or similar ground. Like when I think of something, so kind of like two-way, I'll answer it with the Lego, and but I think of like if I'm connected to someone, there's something in both of us that we are emotionally that's emotionally putting us together. So like I maybe like on the ride over here, I was explaining to Tammy, like simply because I'm in your car doesn't mean we're connected. You know, I think of like when I was in Chicago, like I would get Uber and Lyft or whatever the case is, and like I'm sitting in the car hearing like similar stories, and these people are taking me some miles away. I'm in their car, but it doesn't mean I'm
connected.
I wouldn't say I'm connected to them, you know? So when I think of connected or there's a connection, like we met somewhere, like more than just physically. Like we both like either it started off maybe as just acquaintances and getting to know you. It could have been like, say for example, Abby, we started going to UCF and I'm like, hey Abby, I also go to UCF, and like we slowly met up for lunch and through that we found a connection. It was more than just we both go to the school. It was something personal, something emotional that we got connected to. When I heard the reference with the Legos and the top and the bottom, it kind of shifted how I looked at connect, because connect also did something similar to connecting, disconnect, what have you, but it made me think of like when you think of connection of like an overall connect, like it made me think like what am I connected to? Like kind of like what are my connections kind of like that. So when if to answer the question what is connection or what have you, I think of it as unity based on emotional similarity. That makes sense. Yeah.
When I think of the definition of connection, I'm gonna go this week. My printer. So I work off of a laptop in my office because it's an external system, whatever. And I have a printer with a USB. And so for the longest time, I connected the USB to my laptop, but it wasn't printing anything. So I called, IT, whatever. They did some stuff, and they got it connected to where things started printing. So the way I think of real connection, so like you were saying, you could be in the same car with someone but not connected. I had this USB connected to my laptop, but nothing was happening. So in actuality, it wasn't really connected.
Yes.
But once everything got put together correct, the wiring, everything, then it was functioning. So I see connection as it's not just being together, but there's a functionality between this connection. There's a purpose. There's something that's coming out of it. So that's what I think of.
Nice. So then, with those definitions and have you, how do you feel connected in today's society? So looking at, where we are, let's see, got to activate the link between two things. It could be their idol and something has to activate it. Yes, Puerto Rican.
Right.
Exactly. But in today's society, how do you feel connected? Are you connected in today's society?
Yeah, how connected do you feel?
Yeah.
I always feel like I'm connected for a period of time, and then after I sort of trail off the path, and then I have to be connected again. Like I have to do this a lot for myself to focus, and it's like multiple times through the week I'll install my apps and I'll delete my apps, whether those be Facebook or Instagram, or like I'm not able to just lock my phone or turn it off. I have to completely like take them out of anywhere that I'm access to. And I feel like even at those moments when I come back, I feel like, oh my God, all of this is new. What is going on? So how connected I am to society, I'd say that I'm very okay of being my own individual and not having to be, but I am connected enough to know what is aware on my surroundings that, pertain to like the news or, things like that. But I don't think, besides the connection that I would like to have, emotionally, or to empathize with others, or to be able to have, that more, like you explained it, more than just being in the same place, but then knowing that you have something in common, and then you can help each other through. I'm okay with building those, but I'm also okay not being part of this. Absolutely. I've never been on that mindset. So
I'm like that sometimes too. I'm like, I'm okay with us just meeting on Thursday.
Yes, of course.
And Jean said, when I think of the strongest connection you can make, it involves physical and emotional. Absolutely. And Sam made a really good point too. So, to answer the question, it kind of like two for me. So how connected am I to society? So when I think of society, I think of like my world society and my Christian perspective society, and allow me to explain. So as far as connected to society, there's, like I said, I mentioned, like a lot of things I'm not like aware of. Like there's I live in an era, we live in a time where certain music is the thing, like the style of what have you, the style of dress and whatever. And sometimes I feel like, am I not on the same planet? Like, why don't I know this? Like, I'm cool. Like, like why don't I know some of these things? Like, I just don't. Like, and so I don't feel connected to, I don't feel fully like an emotional connection to my society when it pertains to stuff like that. Like, it took me forever in terms of when people were getting like, those apps like Snapchat. Yes. Like it took me forever to get that. I don't even remember my Facebook login password. Like I don't know I don't watch the news. I don't listen to the radio. So in perspective, it would seem like, what are you doing then? But I find, like you say,
sometimes I don't find out until you're face to face with somebody.
Yeah. They're like, did you hear such and such? And I'm like, I sure didn't. Or like if I'm scrolling through, because I finally remember my password, Facebook, like I'll see something on someone's like Facebook. And so to my society, it's limited to my Facebook feed or like talking to a friend, something like that. But other than that, I'm not out of it. Even to the point of when I was in Chicago, the Pulse thing happened. Right. So again, a lot of people in Chicago were, after talking to me, oh, where are you from? Because I sound different, whatever. I live in Florida. What part of Orlando? Oh, were you affected by whatever? And I was affected, but I wasn't. And then I even had a case of the guilt for not being affected because I've never attended Pulse. I cannot think of any of my friends who could have possibly have been in there. Me personally, I was, the reason I was sad is because humans were affected, like that was my only connection. But it seemed like, based on again the news feed and things I was watching, it seemed like everyone in Orlando was connected to this thing, and I was like, why am I not feeling? So it's funny that we're talking about why am I not feeling it? Like even people tell me like, oh, are you okay? And I'm like, I'm fine. My family wasn't like my friends are all, and like I felt like I had to be connected, but I wasn't. So in terms of like my connection to my society, I find like it lacks there. My connection to how am I connected to my other society is like my Christian world society, which makes it seem, I know, not judgy, but like a segregating. But that also a little bit more connected to because of what I experienced some years ago. I've had to be very selective with who I bring in my life as friends, as what I watch, what have you. And the individuals that I have in my life now, I find it easier because I choose to bring in my life, and it easier to connect with them. Like, I'm okay again if I were to bump into you, even like a store or whatever. Like, I'm okay. Be like, oh my gosh, hey, I can have a decent conversation. I'm not like scared to like bring you around like someone else, and you're gonna like F-bombs, or you're gonna be like, girl, remember last night when I'm like, like, no,
Don't
like,
too much info, really.
yeah, right, yeah. So I feel a sense of connection to like even when I come to church, it's like that's kind of like your society, like, you know what I'm saying, like as far as your society there. So I feel more connected to that society.
Well, and also I think important. You brought out a good point that I didn't think about it. You know how Facebook has the trending topics, or like like, are you limiting your society from what you're looking at from your apps? Are you limiting your society from what that is? And if you're not, because you didn't feel connected to that, then you're obviously feeling connected to something different. You're having the commitment to want something different beyond what the society wants. And I think that is the point of connection, not as much as to what, well, no, of course, always recognizing what you're connected to, but always recognizing how much you want to be connected with that. And is that something you really want to be connected to? So
yeah, absolutely, because it'll recognize similar things, and you're like, why do I keep getting these type of feeds? Oh, I'm connected.
I get tired sometimes. Like, I read the same time, and I'm like, okay, that's enough.
Okay, so how connected do I feel in today's society? I feel a lot of like pseudo connectedness in a lot of aspects of life, like with work. Like, I talk to my coworkers, we work together, but I don't feel like a connection in the sense of like emotional connection. With social media today, that has a lot to do with why I feel a pseudo connectedness, because now all we do is text. We don't really pick up the phone and call people as much.
True story.
We send Facebook messages. Our our opinions and everything is expressed on statuses and Instagram, and it's just kind of like this artificial connectedness to me, which I find very frustrating, because I lived in the age of, or I was born in the age of playing outside with your friends and having deep conversations and things like that.
And human contact.
Exactly, human contact. And now that is decreasing, it's just society's going into this artificial connectedness mode.
Doors are opening. Well, speaking of, someone said miss those days. Puerto Rican said miss those days. So,
whoever you're talking to.
Well,
they can hear because they're on the phone.
not on here. They're not listening via online stream.
She's like peeking in. What's going on? Well, speaking of, finish.
No, it's okay. Go ahead.
No, I'm done.
Go ahead.
I finished mine. I was gonna say, speaking of human contact, talk about a time where human contact, you felt connected because of human contact, because of like
a time where human contact impacted your life.
Impacted my life. Oh my god. Okay, well, why is it that we always think about the saddest things?
I know, it's like
contact,
yeah. I have both. I have sad and happy.
I had a friend the year before we graduated from high school, and we lost him to suicide. And I was an acquaintance to him. We had taken a few classes together and joked around, maybe hanged out if our school was having an event and all of that. But we were really close as well. And I remember hearing the news, and the moment that I, heard the news, hey, did you know that so-and-so, unfortunately, like, took his life away? I took a second, and I'm like, can you tell me his name? Because I don't really remember it. And I'm like, okay, this person. I'm like, I try to familiarize this person with my friends, and do I know him? Do I not know him? Until somebody, tells me, no, is this person that hangs out with this? And I'm like, oh my god, like, I have English with him, or I have,
like you,
And I'm like, how was I able to forget about this person? And I went, I remember that night I found out that very close of my friends were very united with his family. So we decided to do a little bit. Literally, the second we found out, about 3 hours after, I picked up a round of people and we drove straight to his parents' house to see how they were doing. And I think that was the first wave that came to me of like, this is happening. And it felt weird because for the most part, I was surrounded with his family, people that I didn't really know, but we were still mourning the same way. But what really hit me was that morning after it happened on Friday night. We had the whole weekend, and that morning, a couple of his very close friends. We also had a group back in high school. It was a faith group, and we used to unite Tuesdays and Thursdays to speak about faith. And we called some of the pastors that come to speak about to talk um, in the school, and we also plan to all meet up at the front of the school where the flag is, where they have lowered it midway, and we were all there to have a couple of minutes of silence and have a prayer chain. And I got there early, and we were wearing all white shirts, and about 50 more people just united in the very front of the church, in complete silence, just praying. The bell rings, and we're all crossing the streets, avoiding the carts of the people. And the second this last bell rings, the entire school starts crying.
Wow.
I don't think there was class. There was no class that day because I know I did not go to class. And we were all just reminiscent of how much he had impacted people's life and so on. And I think that is, like, I started crying out of nowhere. I think that is one of the first times that I've felt human contact impact me so much. But actually for the better, because I remember that because of that, our graduating class was so immensely connected. And we had great leaders, faith leaders, who were able to preach to many kids that after that grievance that they experienced, they wanted God. And I've never been in such a I went to public school, unrelated place to faith, with having so many people craving Jesus. And sometimes I go to church and I don't see that. And you're on a church. And I think that's one of the things that I've experienced in my life that absolutely impact me the most.
Wow.
Nice. I like that. I'm like, Puerto Rican says his job as a counselor gives him that sad and happy. So my connection, thank you for sharing that, is a bit different. It's not it's one story, but it reminds me of many other mini events. So, like I mentioned before, I used to live in Korea. I was working there, whatever the case is, and about a month in, I had to fly back to the States because my sister was getting married. And I remember, because of time difference, whatever the case is, that Saturday, whatever, I was sitting next to my dad, and I'm daddy's girl, like, all the way. Like, there's no hiding that one. I was sitting next to my dad, and I was sleepy because it was Saturday, like, whatever morning, like, whatever time, but it was the opposite time. I'd been sleeping by then. Like, and I'm like, I'm sitting in church knowing, like, hey, be respectful, stay, don't, whatever. And sitting next to him, I got this sense of, like, comfort. Like, it was like, my body almost, like, naturally just knew it was okay to rest. Like, I don't know, like, I'm there, I'm leaning on his shoulder or whatever, and I'm there for a minute, whatever, and he's like, oh, what happened? Like, you went to the, like, joking, like, oh, you went out last night, or stayed up late, and I'm like, no, it's just time difference, whatever. And he was like, okay. He wasn't like, well, stay awake, or that. He was like, okay. And he let me, So for me, it, flashback moments of when, like, because my dad's a truck driver and used to be gone for the whole week and come in Friday. And we would, like, almost, like, wait, kind of like, is he here yet? And, like, we listen to hear his truck come down, like, is he? And you come like, Dad, and run and, like, just, like, hug, just like, yeah, pick me up, no, like all of that, and just that contact of, like I can, like, everything is gonna be okay, like I'm, like, it's like safe, like a safe hit, you know what I'm saying? And it reminds me, the little moments it reminds me, anytime, like, I hold, like, a baby, I get kind of like that, like, because they're infant. They don't
Yeah.
know. You know, they're in their mother's womb just now. It was dark, or I don't know, whatever the case is, and you're holding, and you're like, sometimes they're like reaching like for the
Yeah.
like they're feeling. They're like, do I know this arm? Do I know? And like you give them, you know how like when you give them to their mother, like it changes.
Like, okay.
Yeah.
They're like, I know
Yeah.
it's mom. Like, you know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? So even from there, like every time I see it, I'm like, I kind of makes me like think like, I wonder how it is to like just like hold Jesus's hand, or like just kind of like lean on his shoulder, like back, like hey, like just chill. With that like that, you know what I'm saying? Like those moments of like, you know, like when you're just,
do you get like a shock, or do you
like what like is it like, do you start laughing? Like you're happy, you're safe, you're whatever, but like it's and it's even now as an adult, anytime I go to see my dad, like I hug him, and I'm a full-fledged adult.
Yeah.
Like I'm like it's like a sense of like everything is gonna be, even though I want to take care, I'm to the point now where I feel like it's time for me to start taking care of him. Something about my dad being there is like, okay, whatever's happening, right, I'm good. My dad's here. Daddy's here. You know? So that's how it is. A person's Jean, I think that's Jean, right?
Yeah.
Are you Jean? Okay. Says a person's influence and contact can reach many people and connect people together directly. Like, yeah. What about you, Tammy?
For me, the first example I thought of was my experience going through grad school through my master's program, which was a mental health counseling program in Puerto Rican. Jorge.
Puerto Rican.
We were in the same grad program, and that experience was just out of this world because we had to go through our own therapy. We had to go through like groups where we had to share our. Well, you didn't have to, but
yeah.
it was, you ended up sharing a lot of the deep, darkest things in your life to try to work through those before you become a therapist. And that was a very emotional time for all of us. And there was a group of us, we supported each other, we understood each other. There was times where we would just meet in the bathroom and just cry at how stressed we were, or something that somebody shared in one of the groups. And it was just so much like connection, so much human connection in that program. I could not have gone through that program without Jorge, without a few other people in that program. It was just immense. I never felt so much support.
Wow.
And then what Jorge was saying about being a counselor, that type of connection with people is just out of this world.
He said, "Aw, thanks."
But yeah, those are the examples that I thought of.
Nice. Well, let's go to the Bible. What does the Bible say about conexiones? How do you say connection in Spanish?
Conexión.
Oh, conexión. What does the Bible say about conexión?
All right. I don't know if I know you guys had something.
Let's hear what you have.
All right.
Yeah. Do you want to?
Sure do.
I'm going off from what you know.
Yeah.
I think it's John 15:4, right?
Yeah.
And you guys had it right here. It says, "Remain in me, as I also remain in you. No branch can bear fruit by itself. It must remain in the vine. Neither can you bear fruit unless you remain in me."
Yes. What does that verse mean to you?
Well, the whole storyline actually means a lot to me when it comes, because it's obviously speaking about the fruit or the grapes, stays with the vine, and when you have to cut out the pieces that need to be reformed and reshaped in order for the fruit to keep growing. And I think to me specifically is almost giving me the choice of you could stay or you cannot. But at the same time, if you are, remember that you will be taken care of, that you will be reshaped, that you've been looked after to see that the fruit that you give is good. And besides that the fruit that you give is good, it is, something that's not going to damage or be bad, or it's actually going to continue giving that blessing. But the main important thing that it tells you is that no matter, how much the bush is taken care of or not, that you're still connected to the feeding source and to the source that is actually giving you the life. So
I like that. I like that.
Yeah, and a verse that kind of conjoins with that. Romans 12, 4 through 5. Just as there are many parts to our bodies, so it is with Christ's body. We are all parts of it, and it takes every one of us to make it complete, for we have different work to do. So we belong to each other, and each of us needs all the others.
Yeah.
So just as we have to be connected to the vine, which is the fountain, and then through that connection, we are supposed to be a body together to do God's work.
Yeah.
So you can't have one without the other.
Yeah. When I, hear of that, the vine and, the other verse that you just read, how it's saying, like, you do need, the one thing. I'm reminded of the story of Noah, of how, I mean, these people were on a boat for like a minute. Like, if you weren't connected before, day 40, you got a connection. Like, you found a connection. Like, you know what I mean? And the only way to survive, if you will, that type of a connection would have been to have first the connection with God, and then been able to kind of transfer it Otherwise, you're isolated, or you're just kind of confined to what, like a corner in a boat, or like, you know what I'm saying? Like when I started thinking about like connection and like stories, like in the Bible, like that one came to my mind. Yeah. So what are some of the dangers of isolation?
Oh boy.
Go say. Hold on. Tammy had something to say.
No, we've moved on to the next question.
We can rewind.
Hold on. No, it's fine.
He said, I am the vine and you are the branches. Together, each person are connected to make up the... Gene, started saying the end, but then he didn't.
No, you can go ahead.
Oh, that was the question, though. Like, the dangers of isolation. Like, what do you feel like are some of the dangers of isolation?
Well, Abby was starting to.
No, go ahead.
Okay, oh my gosh. Here.
No.
Go. Like, what's
Please,
happening?
I was on the previous question. That's what I was saying. Yeah. But you moved, but that's fine. Go ahead, Abby. Go ahead.
Oh, man, and I even asked you guys when we started the program, like, that's a tough question to answer. I think the danger of isolation is that it comes to a point that it's not that you're not informed, it's that you no longer, at a certain point, want to be informed. And when you lose your hope,
true.
When you lose your desire to continue, there's something that's got to bring you back up. And are you going to have the strength to do it yourself? And, most of what the teachings that I've been taught, and most of the teachings that I highly believe on, is that knowing that this is not something that you can do alone, not necessarily that there has to be another human person present to you, but when you lose that connection to God, who are you choosing to connect after, if you are choosing to connect? And we know that in those moments, it's one of the moments that you have more burdens of tribulations and temptations and trials, because we know the devil does not hesitate at all into taking over once you lose that. So I think one of the dangers of isolation, as many, is your reluctance to wanting to connect.
Isolation is extremely dangerous. Well, first I want to say there's a difference between solitude and isolation. Solitude is a choice, and that's something that's usually benefits a person. I like to take time to myself to kind of replenish, meditate, whatever. That's a positive thing. That's a healthy thing.
It's in KSR and WPIR.
And then isolation is when we are hiding, we're running, we're enclosing ourselves from others, from everything.
Of course.
So with that, it has physical and mental effects. So when we're talking about physical effects, it is actually twice more dangerous than obesity in terms of how it impacts your physical health. It impairs your immune functioning. Yes, how we're designed, we're social creatures. We were designed to be in packs. When we think of like the primitive stage of humanity, we had to be in packs to hunt, to have food, to have shelter. We did it in groups. That was just a part of our functioning. So as humans, we were not meant to be isolated, to be alone. So thus, science and medical research teaches us that, God's design for human connection this is real, because when people are isolated, their health is negatively impacted. And then when we talk about mental health, isolation is a big thing that I talk about with my clients. A lot of my clients who suffer from depression, who suffer from trauma and things like that, they tend to isolate, and then their condition becomes worse, and then they end up being Baker-acted, or they just dwindle. So I always try to encourage clients, people, whoever, to stay connected, whatever, if that's your church, if that's going to an AA meeting, if that's calling your friend who live, whatever, stay connected, because when we're alone, we're left with our thoughts, we're left with our emotions. Where does that go? Who do we talk to? Then you sit there, you start to ruminate, the negative thoughts make you dwindle down. So isolation, extremely dangerous, and it leaves you vulnerable to negative things.
Wow. Never thought about it like that. Never thought about it. Jean said, I myself have experienced the impact of isolation. It is a very depressing state. We lose touch. It's true. Yeah, I didn't know it was that intense. I mean, as far as it being like, the dangers of it is just the simple fact of like, you miss human contact. And I think it again puts you in a state of where you're not aware of life. Like I've been told before, like, like I'll either like something, or like I'll not believe something, whatever. So I was like, man, you must have been sheltered as a kid, or like,
I get that a lot.
yeah, you know what I'm saying? No, like, they're like, oh, like, man, your parents must have been strict Christians, like they would, and it has an appearance of like they kept you isolated, So it's kind of like, in that sense, like, I've always thought like a certain level of isolation is probably better than too much exposure.
Yeah.
The devil uses the vulnerable state to, yeah, exactly.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So yeah, but I didn't realize it could be that dangerous. Wow.
Yeah, and the Bible talks a lot about the importance of like fellowship. What's the verse about? Iron sharpens iron. That we're supposed to be. We have to, like, that's our way of staying. That's our way of staying connected to God.
Right.
We have to have fellowship. We have to have connectedness with people. And like Jean said, when you're away from the church, that's the prime. When you're away from God, I shouldn't even say the church. Right. That's the prime opportunity for the devil to take advantage of you. And it's not hard at all when you're isolated.
Right. Makes it easy. I'm finished.
Oh, okay. Did you want me to take the phone? Okay. So we talked about, dangers of isolation. How do we know we are connected to God? Like, what is the evidence of that? How do we know we're really, and I'm talking about really connected.
Okay. How you always turn the camera.
Fine. I'll answer first. I have an answer. Mine is like super quick. The one way that I could think of that to super know is, again, I'll say this example. My roommate in Korea, like I mentioned before, her prayer life was like, apart from my mother, who's like a prayer warrior, her prayer life just seemed so, like, she would tell me, one time she was telling me, I prayed about, let's use this for an example. It wasn't this specific thing, but this is literally how some of her things would be. So, I didn't know if I was going to go back to school. And so I was praying and I asked God, what should I do? And then he said, well, do this. But then I was like, did it? And she was going on back and forth. And then I stopped her and I was like, wait, who are you talking to? Because she made it so real. So, and then I said, and then I went. And so I was walking here and then he said, and I was like, wait, who? She's like, God. And I was like, oh, you heard him? Like, he said that? She's like, yeah. So then when he told me this, and then is when I decided, I was like, time out, pause. Like, you heard him? She's like, yeah, like God speaks to me. And I was like, what? like, well, I was like, how does he sound? And she was saying to me, it's less of like a he sounds like this or he sounds like it's more of like a feeling, a sense, like a essence, if you will. And I was like, whoa, like she has a connection. Like, so I think it's when you are more aware, not that you know everything God is going to say, no, we still need to pray to him, but your prayer life has reached a level of where it's not just oh, Heavenly Father, and then like you have to wait for days. You can talk to him. Your body shows, your actions show that you are connected to him. Because when you're connected to someone or something, even it kind of reflects in you. Yeah. It has like, even if you look at groups of friends that you're connected with, you guys are similar. Maybe not exact same, because people have different groups of friends, but you're similar. There's a similarity there. So when you're connected to God, I think it shows that way in like in your prayer life. So
I think
Abby,
it's the moment where you stop asking yourself.
Connection requires effort.
You know, God, are you there? Or God, are you like? It's the moment where you know without doubt that He's listening to you. That you have faith in someone who is more than listening to you, is taking care of you, and it's taking care of the purpose that you have in this life. I think that it becomes less of I think you know God is with you when you stop putting barriers for him not to come in. I don't know if I'm explaining myself, and it's a lot easier.
Like, what do you mean you stop putting, like, for example?
Like you know that. I feel like it's even when you ask yourself, like, oh, is this right? Is this not? Should I go? And just like you recognize it, you see it, or you hear something, or you recognize things immediately, knowing, okay, no, I'm not gonna do this. Why? Because it doesn't go with this and that, and not necessarily that you have to explain the whole background, but because you know that it would not be in accordance to God. And I know we always portray it with what you can and you can't do. It's the easiest example, but it's mostly also like how you explained it, how your grandma, right? Correct?
I don't know. What happened to my grandma?
How you explained it, how she was having complete conversations with...
Oh, my friend, my roommate.
Sorry, your roommate.
I was like, oh, my grandma.
She's like, what?
I know, so I was like, our grandma. I have one who's passed and one who's 100 years old, so hope the connection is like, I'm like, let me hear this. No, it's okay. My roommate in Korea. For those of you guys that also thought it was my grandmother, my roommate in Korea.
Oh, goodness.
No, it's okay. It's okay.
No.
Abby speaks Spanish and hears. I had to trick. Just kidding.
No, but it becomes that moment where you stop, putting other things before God, and you know that you're making that choice because it's not only feels like the right choice, but because it happens to be morally correct as well, but ethically, and it goes in accordance with your beliefs, the belief that you've known to be by the faith you accepted, by the love of Christ that you chose to have in your life. When you stop questioning, am I or am I not, and you know that is when you're connected to God.
Nice. Jean says, have a heart-to-heart with God. Like two people living under the same roof need to be in constant, I guess you would say constant connection. Thank you, Jean.
I was trying to think of this question, I guess, in my own personal experience, and how I knew I was becoming more connected to God. Like Abby was saying, I started making decisions because I favored this life of Christ instead of this is what I'm not supposed to do.
Yes. Okay.
Right. And I actually became more compliant with the Christian life when it was based off of my connection and relationship with God, rather than this is what mom and dad and the church told me not to do.
Yes.
And I found peace with that. So when I decided to stop engaging in premarital sex, when I decided to stop drinking and whatever, X, Y, and Z, I found peace and enjoyment with those decisions instead of like, oh man, I can't do that anymore.
Yeah.
right, and pride in it. Like just so okay with that. And when it became more natural, like my prayer life became more natural. It wasn't like this forced, oh, it's time to pray. It was like I had this thing where every morning in my car when I'm driving to work, that's when I talk to God. And it's just this natural conversation. There's times where I cry. There's times where I yell because I'm so mad, and I can just freely express that to God. And that's a transformation in my relationship with him. Being able to hear him, like you were saying, just with certain signals, he would give me a certain things that would happen, and I would just know. It was just like this feeling like, okay, yeah, that's God. Like, I know. And yeah, I mean, those are the things that come to mind with, and how I treat people. That was the biggest thing. Is even within my profession, there's no way I could have the amount of empathy that I have for the people that I work with if I wasn't connected to God. There's just no way. Like, I would have been burnt out a long time ago.
Wow.
My effectiveness as a counselor, my ability to be good in this field is dependent on my relationship with God. If I lose that connection, if I start to stray away, that goes out the door too. I'm no longer effective. So yeah, that's a big thing for me.
Wow.
Yeah. So, am I?
Yeah.
No? Okay. So we kind of talked about how we know we're connected. Now, in the program last night, there.
Really quick, because Puerto Rican
go
is saying
ahead.
something.
Go ahead.
He's saying, yeah, me too. Having faith and connection helps me with counseling for me as well. So Puerto Rican,
That's Jorge. Okay.
Yeah, Jorge. I feel like I don't know to call him Jorge.
I know,
Puerto Rican.
okay.
I see Puerto Rican. You call him Jorge. Yeah. I don't know.
But last night in the program, the topic of like the ability to love was brought up. And it was stated that you had to be connected to God in order to love people. Now, when I thought about that, there's a lot of people who don't believe in God, are not connected to God, but you can't tell them they don't love their wife, they don't love their kids. So is it possible to love without Christ?
Okay, as she flips for the verse, because I can't quite remember what, like, my short answer is no. It's yeah, I think I know where. I usually have my mind. Okay, and allow me to answer.
Yes.
Because explain, and then she's gonna. Because of what love is, you cannot truly love unless you know what is. There it is. Yeah, that's it. I was going there. I was going. Yeah. I was gonna go there. I was gonna go there. All right. She'll take it there. She'll go.
I'm just gonna read the whole chapter.
Mustang 222. You nice.
I like this. And for those that want to follow along, it's 1 Corinthians 13, and I'm gonna go ahead and read the whole chapter if you guys don't mind it.
Okay. I thought she was gonna go. I'm gonna read it in Spanish. You don't mind? I'm like, what?
No,
I'll read it in English, I guess.
Spanish, right? All right. It says, "If I speak in the tongues of men or of angels, but do not have love, I am only resounding gong on a clanging cymbal. If I have the gift of prophecy and can fathom all mysteries and all knowledge, and if I have a faith that can move mountains but do not have love, I am nothing. If I give all I possess to the poor and give over my body to hardship that I may boast but not have love, I gain nothing. Love is patient, love is kind, it does not envy, it does not boast, it is not proud. It does not dishonor others. It is not self-seeking. It is not easily angered. It keeps no records of wrong. Love does not delight in evil, but rejoices with the truth. It always protects, always trusts, always hopes, always perseveres. Love never fails. But where there are prophecies, they will cease. Where there are tongues, they will be stilled. Where there is knowledge, it will pass away. For we know in part, And we prophesy in part. But when the completeness comes, what is in part disappears. When I was a child, I talked like a child, I thought like a child, I reasoned like a child. When I became a man, I put the ways of childhood behind me. For now we see only a reflection as in a mirror. Then we shall see face to face. Now I know in part. Then I shall know fully, even as I am fully known. And now these three remain: faith, hope, and love. But the greatest of these is love.
Yes. Thank you for reading that. That's exactly where I was going. I was like, listen, I didn't know by heart.
So, go ahead.
Yeah. So the type of love. So there, I guess it's kind of like when we had the discussion about like what is good,
Yes.
and then there's this like worldly good,
Yeah.
and then there's this good according to the Bible.
Right.
So I guess it's the same concept that there's this ultimate love that is only comes from God.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's this other love, I don't know what that is, but there's this other love that we think we have when we're not connected to God, but it's not. Maybe it's a pseudo love. I don't know.
I think it. Oh man. In
Amos speaking, many people show love even though Christians without knowing the power working. Thank you, Jean. Go on.
and correct me if I'm wrong, and this is gonna be straight out, but I think it's not that we don't love. It's as I personally think it is a sin. It's that we can strive to be the greatest person, but because we are in this world and we are related to sin, it happens that we will sin at some point. But we always strive for the best. So the way I look at it is that we have this set example of what love is and what we strive to be and what we receive from our good and loving Father, God. But as much as we strive to be, we're not complete to that greatness. So there may be places in which we would fail at feeling. And actually, believe it or not, this week I sat down with my significant other and I read this and I'm just like, this just makes me feel old. It just makes it does.
Why does it make you feel old?
Because it tells me the things that I was very taught to do, and just how everything I know now, it could be as insignificant as it will be later, and everything that I knew when I was younger and I know now, it's still as insignificant. So I don't know, it made me feel old for some reason, but it also makes me feel like I could do better for myself, and you can always do better. It doesn't mean that I will get to that perfection. It does not mean that I will not fail, because unfortunately we are in this world where we fail, but we strive for the love of God. And I'm not saying that, whether you have a spouse or not, or your children, you don't love them patiently,
right.
You don't love, or you do not keep records of love.
Right.
Everyone's saying, even so, you always keep striving to make it as close as God has. But the thing is that you can't forget that this is something you do alone. Because this isn't something you do on your own and you decide, today I'm going to be patient. Today I'm not going to self-seek myself. Today, this is something you do with God and with God alone. The only person that can teach you how to love like that is God. And that's the first person you need to have before you start loving anybody else. And I'm not saying that it won't happen or you should not create, but I'm trying to say that if you want to have that, you have to know Him first. You have to check yourself daily and constantly in the surroundings that you are, to understand that also the love that you're giving is the love that God is giving to you.
Wow. Thank you for that. And Essence, one of your supervisors, said, the Bible says God is love. Try reading the part of what love is again and replace love with God. Yeah, exactly. So, which is what I was going to say. So God, when I think of God as love, I think of God equals love. So just like how he's saying here, like replace love with God. Like God is love. So like how you were saying, like, and it's true, because one time I was asking somebody, the Bible wants us to love everyone. Is it easier to love or to like someone? Because I feel like when you like someone, you enjoy them. Like, I like you, whatever. Yeah. Like, I have to love you. Or like, but I actually like you. Like, but there is this other thing that I guess if it's not the love, it's like, what, like, because I really, really like you.
Yeah.
But it's not love. It's not the Bible definition of love. So to answer your question then of like, what was it? Like, can you tell?
Like if someone is not, let's say someone who's atheist, who has no belief in the existence of God, and they have a child, and they say, I love my child.
Right.
And are we just saying, no, there's no way you love your child because you're not connected to God?
I mean, I don't think you can tell that to them, but I think for definition purposes, it's factual. And correct me if I'm wrong. Anybody? Okay. I'm like, did I get the no, but because let's just say there isn't a word in the vocabulary, or the English vocabulary, to explain then what that is, because it definitely isn't love, like God, and like how whoever this Essence person is that's watching, we don't know who you are. They're like, but like love is patient. So God is patient. God is kind. God, and it's so true. Like, and again, I think of how think of us as kids. You love your parents. No, you don't. Like, you know, like there's times where we get frustrated with our parents or whatever the case is, but I know that it's not just I like my parents. So whatever that, like you said, pseudo love is, can I truly love another person without God first? You're right, absolutely not. But even that second love that we don't know what we're calling it, of like, I don't know what we want to call it, but I don't think that can even be effective either. Because eventually we're not instantly patient, but we eventually get to a place where we forgive. We're not instantly that, but we eventually get to a place that, you know.
And I don't. I also, you can correct me if I'm wrong. This one, I'm gonna take that to my. Sorry. And like, but I don't think that at no point the love that we have that does not compare to what we have written down, or it's not the love when we say, oh, but you don't really love. At no point we can also say that love cannot transform to be love is patient, love is kind, love is, because the love of God can do wonders, and whether we are capable of doing it, that is still your individual nature. Like we won't be able to sit here and point out, oh, that person loved like this, or that person loved like, no, because the only example we should have and we want to have is God. But at other time, we're not saying that the love that we will have does not, whether it's right or wrong, does not transform with the power of God to be that love that truly is love.
So with our last few minutes, what if somebody, or for those who may be struggling with loving their neighbor, which was, the whole thing of the program is, we need to be connected to everyone, connected to God, connected to everyone. So what words of wisdom, advice would you give to anyone who is struggling with loving their neighbor?
Ooh. Wow. Dang it, Tammy, you go first. Tammy in these questions.
Well, I'm going to speak from my own personal experience because I experienced that. And one of the things I found that worked for me.
Somebody said Amos reference. Who? Sorry, I'll let you finish. Jean, you got to tell us who this Amos is. Who's Amos reference? All right, sorry, Tammy. Go ahead.
One of the things that worked for me was praying for the people that I had trouble loving. I remember having friends, or not friends, but like particular people that maybe got on my nerves, said something that pissed me off, and I was like, I don't do this person. I don't like them. But I knew that wasn't a God-like mindset. So it was hard for me within myself to say, oh, I'm just going to love this person. But I instead prayed and said, God, I really don't like this person, and I don't want to be that way. I don't want to feel like that. So please help me to understand this person, to accept this person. And that has been extremely helpful for me. What about you guys?
Woo. Abby, you're next, because I'm still gonna.
Okay, and it's funny because today in our Sabbath school we were speaking about community outreach, and the communities that we go to. And I think that was also one of the purposes in Legos when we say, the purpose of the Lego is to connect to God and then to connect to man and pass the love of God through. No matter the color, the shape, the size, or so on. And we were speaking about it in Sabbath school, and we were talking about, we brought up the example of the Good Samaritan.
Good one.
And earlier in the verses before the parable of the Good Samaritan, it's actually asked to Jesus, but Jesus, who are our neighbors? Like we want to try to identify or just select the people that we want to like, or we have to like because those are our neighbors.
Right.
But you also want to select the people that you don't have to stand to,
right?
Very much,
right.
But that is when we start thinking that way. That is where we start stopping and breaking the barrier of love, and putting a barrier of love, because that no longer is giving the best you can because you can, and you see the need, and you are called to fulfill that need. That is now objectifying, and So, what advice would I give to those that are trying to either identify of those who are our neighbor or need to connect to those who are our neighbors?
Yeah.
I would say, one, pray to God and see what He tells you to do. Because I can tell you tons of advice right here, but if it's not what God is telling you, He's leading you somewhere where you are needed, where those will be the neighbors whom you will impact to. Two, see where you're at. See where you're at. See what you can do. And three, give unconditionally without buts when God opens the door. So I think every time, and I do this on my personal life, and I can tell you that I have my flaws when I do it as well. But every time you ask God, do I do this? Even though I am really mad and I cannot stand this person, or like, do I really have to walk through that door that you're putting me through, God? But He's placing you there for a purpose. Identifying your neighbor, it is never what you should have to become to want to give that love. It is wanting and knowing that the love of God has a greater purpose, and it is greater in its entirety to just give to the other person.
Nice. I like how she had three. I'm like, makes my one little answer over here. See?
Sorry.
No, it's okay. I know who Amos is now. Apparently, it's Jean's friend. Hey, Amos. Because I thought he was saying like Amos in the Bible. I was like, Amos read Matthew. What? I get it now. Amos friend listening, first time. Hi, Amos. The verse says to me, people will show love without knowing it. Absolutely. One of the ways I think that you can also, in conjunction with what she said, is going back to our topic of love languages. So what is your natural way of showing love? Like, do that, of course, with God's help. Because like how you said, sometimes you don't.
Yeah.
One of love, you're like, oh, this person is so. In fact, how much time? Ooh, 1 minute. Ooh, I was going to share. No, it's okay. It's okay. There's somebody I'm having a hard time loving. And I had to pray about it because this person, it's like they intended to get on, whatever my nerves. And at first I was in a space of like, but I had to pray, Lord, show me how to love. Oh, I'm getting the 2 fingers. I'm getting that. I have to. So that was that 1 minute because I don't want to go too much into it. The point is I have to, despite what I normally would want to do, show them love in the way that I'm used to showing other people that I care about love anyway. So again, like, what do I mean by that? Like if I'm used to saying words of affirmation or kind or gifts or whatever the case is, pray again, pray that God gives you the strength to do it. Because sometimes you don't want to, you don't want to, or what have you, but you still want to be able to show the love of God, and using the Lego reference, being connected to God first, He will then reveal to you how He wants you to show others love. Did that make sense?
Yes.
All right. Anything else, Tammy?
No, that concludes our questioning.
You want to close this out?
Okay, so thank you all for tuning in. our YouTube page. All of the shows are posted there. So if you missed the first half, whatever, YouTube, just look up Kosher Salt Radio. Follow us on Instagram at Kosher Salt Radio. And make sure you tune in next week or every Saturday from 5 to 7 p.m. Bye.
Bye. Bye.